Hi everybody, I just wanted to let you know that this is part 2 of this tutorial, so if you haven't seen part 1 yet, just take a look on my channel because it's on there. So here's part 2 and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm now going to go in with the Luminance Burnt Sienna 10%. And I'm gonna start to fill the tooth of the paper a little bit more now. So you don't need a really sharp pencil for this bit. And I'm using a medium pressure. Still not pressing too hard, but I'm starting to fill some of the tooth of the paper now. I'm not worrying about detail at this point either because we're going to use the a ceramic blade to lift some of this pigment out to add some of the highlights later on. So at the minute I just want a nice even coverage of this whole area. So if you look at the reference, this half is sort of in shadow, this half is lighter, but it's still a nice pinky tone on this half. Over here as well. To work these areas a little bit more, so I need to find a nice warm grey. Okay, so sometimes you have to mix a couple of pencils to get the exact colour that you want, so that's what I'm going to have to do now. So I'm going to use the Light Fast Flesh Pink. I'm just going to sharpen it. And then on top of that, I'm going to use the Pablo Brownish Beige again, which I've used a lot so far in this drawing. So I'm going to start with the Flesh Pink Light Fast and quite lightly just using circular motions for this, because in the reference there isn't, if you look at this sort of patch here, there isn't any fur texture, so we don't need to work in the, direction of the fur. Okay, so I'm being quite heavy-handed here. Still using some of the tooth, still leaving some of the tooth not filled in. This is why I always recommend using a hot press watercolour paper, but Fabriano in particular, because I really do use a lot of layers to build up my drawings, and I find that the Fabriano can take a hell of a lot of layers. Okay, I'm also Gonna burnish up here as well. Still using the Flesh Pink Light Fast. Now there is some fur texture in this section, so I am paying attention to the direction of the fur up the top. Okay, so those colours are starting to match up a bit better now. And then again down here. Okay, and now I'm gonna go over the top of that with my brownish beige, especially in the corner. Now I'm very lightly, almost glazing over the top, just to darken up certain areas. Just using circular motions again. Now I'm going to go with the polychromos ivory. Just to give that almost sort of yellowy warmth. Let's use the Polychromos Dark Sepia, just right in the corner. And then I'm going to burnish that with the brownish beige Pablo. Luminance French Grey 10% as well. Just to keep burnishing until the tooth's filled. I feel like I've lost this sort of warm orangey line here, so I'm going to go back in with this one, the Luminance Burnt Ochre 50%, and then with the direction of the fur, I'm just going to add that back in. Really nice tones and colours in this image. A lot of sort of warm pinky greys. add in some of the sharper details, I'm gonna use a lighter pencil. I'm gonna go in with the French grade 10% luminance, and in the face now, here, in these sort of little fluffy cheek pouches that cats have, and then under the eyes, I'm gonna burnish that with a lighter pencil slightly more. So then we can go over the top of this with a darker colour for our detail. So don't worry too much about losing details as you're burnishing. So now I'm going to have a nice sharp pencil. I'm going to use the Polychromos Dark Sepia. Start adding these sort of sharper lines in the middle of the face. So again, look at your reference and look at how long each little mark is and the direction that it's going in as well. Long lines in this top section above the nose. Bring this out slowly as well. Into this top corner, start to get some of the sharper details in here, and then just darken up this area as well. These sort of lines here, which we don't want to miss out. So they're quite thick, so my pencil isn't really sharp anymore, which is quite a good thing. So I don't want these lines to be too defined. Okay, so now, before we go in with the very darkest details, I'm going to use my ceramic blade. My blade has actually snapped, so it doesn't work as well. I do need to replace that really. But being careful not to cut into your paper. So I'm going to have this sort of on the side rather than directly like that. So I'm going to hold it like this and then lightly start to sketch in some of these lighter bits of fur. Brownish beige. So you've still got some of that nice blue coming through, but then you're also darkening the whole area. Yeah, that's fair. And then I'm going to use the Polychromos magenta again, and just another layer of this lovely warm purple colour. So I'm very lightly sketching over what we've already done on each side of the cheeks. Okay, so going back in with the Pablo brownish beige, I'm going to add some softer details to the outside areas. So I'm just sketching in strokes. Grey 30% luminance, just to add these darker bits of detail. Just darkening up behind the whiskers as well. Okay, I want to use the black. I'm actually going to use the Polychromos black because it's a bit of a harder pencil, so I should be able to get some sharper details in. So let me just find that. Nice and sharp for this bit. Finish off the nose. Now the highlights are a nice sort of warm browny tone. So I'm going to use the Pablo brown ochre, and and then just fill in those highlights. We'll then go over them in a white, just to bring them out a bit more. I'm also going to use the blue again, the Pablo Sapphire blue, and then just glaze the top section. And then finally, I'm going to use my Polychromos Dark Sepia, and then just darken up using quite hard pressure this whole area inside the nose. So just remember to leave your highlights. Okay, let's go back in with our Polychromos Manganese Violet, and I'm just going to glaze this nose. So you've got the nice purple tones and the blue tones coming through now. Hi everyone, I lost the audio to this part of the tutorial, so I'm just doing a quick voiceover to just explain what I'm doing. So right now I'm using, I think it's the Light Fast taupe, and I'm just softening up all of the darker areas in the middle, and I also went into the top right corner as well. Just starting to burnish now and blend everything together, and starting to fill in the tooth of the paper as well. So now I'm using the Pablo Sapphire Blue, and I'm lightly glazing over the nose and under the cheeks, just getting a bit of those cool shadows in there. And this is all glazing, so now I'm using the Polychromos Manganese Violet, I think that one is. And again, I'm just very lightly glazing all of this. Just adding all these layers of colours really adds nice depth to the finished piece. So now I'm starting to blend the outside areas together. Again, starting to fill a bit more tooth of the paper, and I'm using the Pablo Brownish Beige. I've now started using what I think is the Luminant, Golden Bismuth Yellow, to just add a bit of warmth. And now I'm going in with the Polychromos Magenta. Again, this is all glazing. So everything's starting to soften up quite nicely now. Okay, so now this is my favourite part. I'm going in with the black, and I've recently started using the Caran d'Ache Supracolor black. I think it's so much better than all of the other blacks that I've used. So I'm just going around the eyes, darkening up the pupils, and you can see it, that really makes them stand out nicely. And same again on the other side. And now I'm picking out the darkest areas of the nose as well. I also lost some of the footage that I recorded of me adding detail into the eyes. So I just thought I'd jump on here and say that take a look at your reference, and for the darkest areas that you can see in the image, I used the Pablo Sapphire Blue. I also used the Sapphire Blue to add the fine details. And just remember to leave your highlights nice and bright, and you can go into them if you want to with a white pencil. Okay, sorry about that. So now just back to the tutorial. You can use either a Pablo or a Polychromos white. I've got a Pablo because they're both quite hard pencils. You could maybe try using the Luminance white, but I'd recommend for these details using a Pablo or a polychromos, I think. So these are just the very lightest areas. Just thicken up these indented whiskers slightly. And going over them with the pencil also just softens them up a little bit. I'll probably leave the top ones as they are, the ones above the eyes. So by putting the brown on first, you've still got those sort of warm brown tones underneath the white. Then I'll go over these highlights in the eye as well. Hard pressure now, just to add some highlights to the outside of the image, because this is nice and soft. If you went in with the ceramic blade, I think the sharp details would look quite sort of jarring. So you just want these highlights to be nice and soft. And this is the finished piece. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you've learnt something from completing it, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. Okay, thank you, bye!